In San Francisco, FBI agents John Crawford and Tom Lone find themselves at a dock warehouse where a violent clash is occurring between the Chinese triads and another group. Despite the gunfire erupting around them, the agents stay composed. Crawford is annoyed, feeling like 2 years of work were just undone in minutes. They draw their weapons and run towards the fray. They spot numerous bodies scattered and head towards the source of the gunshots. Crawford picks up a bullet from the ground, feeling a rush of anxiety, while Tom is already in the midst of the confrontation, which Crawford soon joins. Crawford then sees a man commit a murder but can't stop him before he escapes. Meanwhile, Tom disables another assailant, and Crawford moves through the dock, only to be shot in the shoulder. As he faces death, the attacker about to finish him off is shot in the face and falls into the water. Crawford quickly informs Tom that the Yakuza had hired a freelance hitman to eliminate the triads. Ironically, the CIA had previously used the same assassin, named Rogue, who turned on them and killed 5 of their agents. Crawford shows Tom Rogue's unique titanium bullets with uranium cores. The police eventually arrive at the scene, and 2 agents show their FBI badges. A few days later, Tom's wife gives him the phone. Crawford tells his friend he might be a bit late to watch the game at his house. We then meet Crawford's wife, Jenny. After hanging up, a car pulls up outside Tom's house, and a man exits with a pistol. He enters the house, grapples Tom's wife to the ground, shoots Tom in the face, and locks Tom and his family in a room. He then fatally shoots Tom's wife and daughter before setting the house on fire. Crawford wakes when his wife sees a heavy police presence at Tom's house. He quickly gets out of his car, shows his FBI badge, learns there are 3 victims, and almost vomits upon seeing one. His wife weeps as Crawford searches the house for clues. He finds a familiar shell casing like one he saw at the dock and leaves holding it. 3 years later, a Spiker C8, a treat for car enthusiasts, pulls up to a club where Rogue steps out with VIP access. He heads to the guards, slashes them both, then goes after the Yakuza members, shooting at some of them. The remaining Yakuza draw their pistols and shoot until their guns are empty. A man checks if Rogue is dead, but instead, the man's dog returns wearing an explosive, which detonates. A surviving Yakuza member warns that betrayal won't be tolerated, but is quickly killed. The scene is soon taken over by police. Crawford arrives with another agent named Wick. They discover one explosion survivor, and Crawford goes to assist him. He pretends to be a doctor, causing the man to scream in horror upon learning that Crawford graduated from an online course. The man quickly informs Crawford that it was Rogue who caused the explosion. That night, Crawford has a terrifying dream about losing his friend to the vicious assassin. He wakes up to a ringing phone, and it's Jenny on the other line, asking him to attend their son's basketball game. When he tells her he found Tom's killer, she reminds him that his obsession ruined their marriage and then hangs up. Crawford heads to the FBI headquarters, where a sniper joins the team, including a member named Maria, to discuss the case. They conclude that Rogue has betrayed the Yakuza and their leader Shiro. Another gang, the Triads, is led by Chong, who is notorious and brutal. Rogue is caught between both organizations. Rogue arms himself and goes to Chong's mansion in California. Chong introduces his wife to Rogue and praises him for recently eliminating some Yakuza members. Chong talks about loyalty, and Rogue makes it clear that he serves no one. Rogue then leaves to complete his mission, while Chong orders 2 men to follow him to Shiro's estate. In Japan, Shiro engages in a sword fight with one of his men, their katanas clashing repeatedly. The young fighter manages to strike Shiro, immediately apologizing. Shiro reassures him, then lands a heavy blow on the boy and leaves with his daughter, Kira. He mentions that horses are being sent to San Francisco, something Chan also told Rogue. Shiro instructs Rogue to go to San Francisco as he doesn't trust his own people, and she sets off to secure the horses. Meanwhile, Crawford enters an underground fight club and finds a man named Benny. They go into a room where Benny shares news about Rogue. A bullet maker was killed along with 2 specialists in facial reconstruction who died mysteriously, and a 3rd surgeon is missing. The scene shifts to the Triads paying off a contact. It turns out the horses are intact and loaded into trucks, but there's more to these vehicles. As the crew drives off, police officers quickly surround the trucks and order the men to comply, searching them against offense. The corrupt police captain, who had been bribed, appears and demands money from a Yakuza member. He takes the package and gives the all-clear. Suddenly, the Triads ambush the trucks and hijack them while Rogue watches from afar. They check the trucks for their hidden cargo, real horses made of pure gold. Rogue receives his cash reward, and later, proper police officers and Crawford arrive at the docks to find all the dead Yakuza members. Crawford informs his team that this was a major robbery, and the only way to get the Yakuza out of their cars without their weapons is by using the police or at least fake ones. The next day, the FBI heads to a restaurant where Crawford confronts the corrupt captain, roughing him up. In the bathroom, The captain reveals that an unknown man threatened his family, forcing him to cooperate. As they escort the captain outside, he is shot in the chest. Rogue abandons the gun and runs. Crawford, seeking revenge, chases after Rogue intensely. They engage in some parkour, and Crawford eventually pushes Rogue through a window, but Rogue vanishes quickly. At the Yakuza's headquarters in San Francisco, Kira enters the office of the two bosses and humiliates them, asserting her dominance. The next day, Crawford receives a mysterious call from Rogue, who disguises his voice and provides the location of the stolen goods at Chang's warehouse. The FBI and police rush to the scene and present a search warrant to Chang, who orders his men to open the doors. Inside, a lone man is ordered to surrender. It turns out to be Rogue, with a passport identifying him as Victor Shaw. Crawford examines him and notes the surgeon's good work but recognizes his eyes. He interrogates Rogue, who remains silent, even when Crawford mentions the murder of his friend's family. Wick informs Crawford that the warehouse is clean, and with no evidence, they are forced to leave Rogue. After taking a picture of Beck at Chang's mansion, Rogue commends him for hiding the cars before the police arrived, unaware that Rogue himself had called the cops. Meanwhile, Crawford, still angry over losing his friend and family, vents his frustration violently. A few days later, Rogue is playing with his gun when Chang's daughter joins him. Her mother spots this and warns Rogue to keep business separate from family matters. That night in the Triad district, a Yakuza biker shows up, causing a commotion that draws the Triads after him. He leads them into Yakuza territory, where a brutal fight breaks out between the two crime syndicates. From afar, Rogue watches the chaos and reveals his identity, observing the Triads' reactions as they are beaten. He then joins the fray, eventually cornering the last Triad member and killing him, contrary to his parents' advice about playing with food. The next day, the FBI arrives at the scene of the massacre, realizing that war is inevitable. Chang, meanwhile, instructs his men not to retaliate to avoid further risk, and asks Rogue to ensure his wife and daughter stay safe. Rogue approaches the second-in-command, whose brother he had killed, and gives him a matchbox with the location of a Yakuza safe house. The FBI stake out the safe house, observing a meeting among the Yakuza. As the FBI monitors, the Triads ignore Chang's orders, storm into the tea house, and start killing everyone present. They shoot through the flimsy walls, killing most of the Yakuza. More members jump into the chaos and engage in a shootout with the FBI. The Yakuza retaliate against the Triads, and both sides continue to exchange gunfire until all the Yakuza inside are dead. Crawford crashes the scene and, with Wick, they storm the tea house. Within seconds, the Triads are held at gunpoint by the FBI and start getting arrested. Suddenly, Rogue appears and takes out the Triads one by one. This diversion gives the Triads a chance to try escaping. Maria runs for her life, Wick gets shot, and Crawford is knocked down. With Crawford being the last FBI agent standing in the tea house, everyone rushes him. Despite the odds, his agility and skills shine as he eliminates opponent after opponent until he spots the last wounded Yakuza member in a room. Crawford shoots him dead and runs outside, seeing Rogue in his car. He gives chase, and they speed through the streets. Rogue seems to be enjoying the pursuit, but Crawford is determined not to let his friend's killer escape. Unfortunately, Crawford gets into a severe accident, totaling his car and allowing Rogue to get away. The next day, Rogue calls Chang to inform him that his men disobeyed orders and were all killed. Rogue claims he tried to stop them but was unable to. It turns out Rogue has rejoined the Yakuza and has been ordered to kill Chang, his wife, and child, despite his hesitation. Jenny, meanwhile, confronts Crawford about the numerous armed men outside her house. She admonishes him once more, claiming his fixation will endanger everyone. Benny contacts Crawford to inform him that they located the third plastic surgeon in Mexico. Within hours, Crawford and Benny track down and corner the surgeon at gunpoint, forcing him to reveal information. The surgeon explains he reconstructed the muscle, nerve tissue, and facial bones of a man whose face was severely damaged, confirming this new appearance belongs to Rogue. At Chang's mansion, he prepares his family to leave, unaware that an assassin disguised as a ninja is infiltrating his property. As Chang organizes his things, his right-hand man enters, declares Chang a traitor, and aims a gun at him. They exchange gunfire just as Rogue enters and overpowers the assistant. Chang insists his man was a loyal friend, to which Rogue affirms before shooting Chang. Concurrently, Yakuza members outside overpower and eliminate all the guards, a situation quickly reported to Crawford by an FBI agent. Rogue proceeds to find Chang's wife and daughter, and 2 gunshots ring out outside. The Yakuza demand to see the bodies, prompting Rogue to kill the questioning man. When other men attack him, Rogue easily defeats them all. Rogue spares the wife and daughter, letting them escape by car as he promised. Crawford learns that Rogue is making the Yakuza and Triads fight each other, adding excitement. Shiro arrives in town and tells his daughter he wants her back in Japan. At that moment, Crawford approaches Shiro, welcoming him to America and showing photos of Rogue attacking his Yakuza allies. Crawford questions Shiro's involvement, but Shiro plays dumb, and Crawford leaves. The following day, Rogue meets Shiro for the first time, bringing suitcases containing golden horses. Rogue receives a suitcase with cash and images of his betrayal. Shiro orders his men to interrogate Rogue for the wife and child's location and reveals the horses are fake by smacking them. Meanwhile, Rogue kills one escort and fights another fiercely, eventually defeating him. As Shiro descends the stairs, a bomb incapacitates him. Bo skillfully kills 4 men with 4 bullets. Shiro grabs a katana, Rogue lowers his pistol, retrieves his own katana, and Shiro finally asks why Rogue betrayed him after all this time. Rogue explains that 3 years ago, Shiro ordered a specific hit. They then start fighting, with Rogue easily overpowering Shiro and holding him at knife point. Rogue says Shiro should have left his wife and daughter alone. Shiro recovers and the fight continues, both men sustaining arm injuries. Rogue narrates how Tom escaped from his grip during their fight, and how Tom shot Rogue in the face to disguise his death. It turns out Tom altered his appearance and voice to become Rogue, with the sole aim of finding and killing Shiro. But Shiro reveals that Crawford was the one who provided information on Tom and his family and the Triad's location, leading to this confrontation. Tom then kills Shiro, with memories of his dead wife and daughter in his mind. The next day, Chang's wife receives a package and a note suggesting she start a new life, along with a golden horse as a gift. Kira also gets a package with the same note, but finds her father's body inside, going into shock. Tom calls Crawford, telling him to meet where they first met. Crawford brings his sniper along and heads to the dock, calling for Rogue. Instead, he is disarmed quickly, and they begin a fast-paced fight where Crawford puts up a strong resistance. They start swinging shovels at each other, then switch to grappling. Crawford puts Tom in a chokehold, prompting Tom to ask why Crawford did it and what Shiro offered in exchange for his wife and daughter's lives. Crawford then realizes Rogue is actually Tom. Staring into his eyes, Crawford knows it's true. They tumble out of a window, and the sniper can't get a clear shot. Tom admits he never imagined the path to avenging his family would lead back to his best friend. Crawford asks for forgiveness, but Tom responds that the man he knew as Tom is dead. Just as the sniper is about to shoot Tom, Crawford sacrifices himself by jumping in the way and is killed to protect his former friend. Later, Rogue gets into his car with the second golden horse and drives off onto the highway.
Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.